And honestly, I think that one of the biggest problems I hear from people are like, how do I plan my content? How do I be consistent with my content? So, how do you plan your content?
Yeah, it's planning is always I feel like it's very natural to struggle with planning because you can't plan creativity, right? And sometimes you will find that your best ideas will come to you when you are the furthest away from your laptop. You might be walking in the park, you might even be at work, you might literally just be having some ice cream, and an idea will come to you, and then you'll forget about it because you don't have anywhere to write it down. So I think one thing I would do to combat that is always just have like a notes page on your phone, or maybe just have a notebook on hand that you can use just to quickly jot down an idea and 1% better every single day. And that's all you need to do, especially when you work in marketing. Just focus on getting 1% better every single day. And you can apply this approach to your content. Every time you post a piece of content, doesn't matter how often, maybe you post every day, maybe you post 3 times a week. When you sit down to plan the next batch of your content, think about how can I make this 1% better? How can I make my next post just 1% better? Maybe it's in the structure, maybe it's in the topic, maybe it's in the way your tone of voice, the way you convey things. Maybe it's the creative that you're putting with your post. Maybe you could take a better picture, maybe you could write a carousel. Whatever it is, just focus with every single post that you write, make the next one 1% better, and you'll find that your growth will be tenfold.
There's no need to complicate things. There we go. After
Oh,
some technical difficulties, we're
we
on the
got there.
podcast.
We got there in the end.
Nia, thank you so much for being here today. So,
So
Nia and
thank you
I
for having
actually,
me.
oh yeah, of course. Nia and I actually met, I think it was like 2 or 3 years ago. I don't know.
2 years ago, I want to say 2022. Yeah.
Yeah, we
Mhm.
both knew this girl in London named Candace abroad. I think she's still doing the London stuff. I don't talk to her too much anymore, but she was cool. She had like a
Yeah.
women's collective, and we met during this co-working day and
Yeah.
just got to chatting, somehow kept in touch. But Nia, do you want to tell everyone a little bit more about who you are, what you do, like where you started and what you do now? Because you're really good on LinkedIn and personal branding.
Honestly, I mean, thank you. I'd like to think I'm getting there, but so well, full time, I am marketing executive at a company called Little Dish, which is a brand that makes healthy meals for kids. But in my spare time, and what I'm most known for, kind of in the marketing world, I guess, is being a LinkedIn creator. And I also run an Instagram community called Marketers in Progress for young and ambitious marketers and creators. I started my LinkedIn journey, personal branding journey, if you want to call it that as well, in 2022. At the beginning of 2022, I was a uni graduate, had no clue what I wanted to do, came back to uni after a very, very difficult corporate placement year, stumbled upon this thing called personal branding because I was part of a brand ambassador program at university at the time. Gave it a go, had zero expectations of what would happen. But since then, I'm now at just over 14,000 followers on Instagram and LinkedIn. Well, in total, and just to make that very clear. I'm also a LinkedIn top voice in social media and creative strategy, and I've had a few PR features, including with Girls in Marketing. So, been a crazy journey, but here we are.
Yeah, you're so impressive. That's awesome. And I like the company that you work for right now as well, because I was watching this thing last night, getting a bit off topic, but honestly, it was
Yeah.
crazy. So this guy was talking about how, especially in the US, right, over half of kids who are, I mean, like kids are they're overweight or obese. And
Yeah.
it's basically like what they're suggesting now is put them on Ozempic, which is a lifelong drug. Instead
Yeah.
of
I
making
mean,
changes to the healthcare system, they're making them lifelong patients, which is just cash flow.
yeah, I mean, our founder, Hillary, she's actually American herself. She actually started the company when she was expecting her first child.
Right.
And the ready meal at the time, my mum says this as well, the ready meals section in pretty much every supermarket at that time was not great. Really, really not great. And she basically wanted to create like healthy ready meals that parents could use when they didn't have time to cook, but they were still at least still knowing that they were giving their child like a healthy, nutritious meal. So that was where the company was born. It's a really, really wholesome job. Everyone's really, really nice. It does get like every job in marketing, it does get a little busy and intense sometimes, but everyone's really supportive and yeah.
That's so cool. So with your personal branding journey, I knew that you had quite a LinkedIn following when I first met you as well.
Yeah.
But I know that when we were talking a few weeks ago, you had some really good tips on how to schedule and plan. Honestly, I think that one of the biggest problems I hear from people are like, how do I plan my content? How do I be consistent with my content? So how do you plan your content?
Yeah, it's planning is always I feel like it's very natural to struggle with planning because you can't plan creativity, right? And sometimes you will find that your best ideas will come to you when you are the furthest away from your laptop. You might be walking in the park, you might even be at work, you might literally just be having some ice cream, and an idea will come to you, and then you'll forget about it because you don't have anywhere to write it down. So I think one thing I would do to combat that is always just have like a notes page on your phone, or maybe just have a notebook on hand that you can use just to quickly jot down an idea when it comes to you, so that when you do sit down to plan your content, like actually sit down at your laptop, you have this bank of ideas that you can refer to, and you don't have to worry about, oh, what was that really great idea that I had last week?
Mhm.
I think I would also say as well, having a notebook, having like an actual pen and paper can be really helpful before you start to go to your laptop. And the reason I say this is because when you open up your laptop, it's very easy to fall from planning into trying to write a post straight out of your head, because your laptop you can do pretty much anything with, right? And that's probably where you're going to write your content. But if you have a notebook and pen with you, it's easier to just jot down a few notes relating to an idea than trying to come up with a post from scratch. And I say this to everyone, actually. Exactly, there you go. I say this to everyone when they're planning their content. So what I would do is, if you have an idea, just jot down every single thought that comes to your mind that when you think about that idea. Doesn't matter, doesn't need to be complete full sentences, doesn't need to be perfect. Just write down every thought that comes to your mind. Then structure those thoughts into a coherent piece of writing. And then that just makes it so much easier, because you're not trying to form something directly from your head. You're not trying to make something perfect from nothing. So that's my advice I would give for planning content.
I love that. And I love how you talk about making space for creativity as well, because obviously if you're at a desk all day, like you're not seeing the world. You can't write about things that you haven't done, right?
Yeah.
So getting out there, seeing the world, and then getting creative about it, that's so important. And
Yeah.
like you people at home who are like, I can't plan my content, I can't write down those ideas. You always carry your phone with you. Like, what are you talking about? Yeah,
Literally,
you always have a phone with you.
if
So
there is a notes app on your phone for free, use it.
use
Use
it.
Make good use of it. You can even use the checklist on, if you have an iPhone, use the checklist button so you
Yeah,
can tick off ideas as you've used them. So it really does make all the difference, because people say all the time, I can't plan when my creative energy is going to come to me. And you're right, you can't plan for that, but you can at least put a system in place so
right.
that when you do sit down to actually start writing, you have half the work done for you. Like,
I love
there
that.
is no excuse right now.
I love that. Have you ever
Yeah.
read Atomic Habits?
Yes, I read Atomic Habits. I've also listened to quite a few podcasts on the book Atomic Habits.
That's
So
awesome.
yeah, so for anyone that hasn't read the book, highly recommend. James Clear talks about getting 1% better every
Mhm.
single day. And that's all you need to do, especially when you work in marketing. Just focus on getting 1% better every single day. And you can apply this approach to your content. Every time you post a piece of content, doesn't matter how often, maybe you post every day, maybe you post 3 times a week. When you sit down to plan the next batch of your content, think about, how can I make this 1% better? How can I make
Mhm.
my next post just 1% better? Maybe it's in the structure, maybe it's in the topic, maybe it's in the way, your tone of voice, the way you convey things. Maybe it's the creative that you're putting with your post. Maybe you could take a better picture. Maybe you could write a carousel. Whatever it is, just focus with every single post that you write, make the next one 1% better, and you'll find that your growth will be tenfold.
I love that. And yeah, we were
Yeah.
talking before we started recording as well. Those one-pager PDFs, for those of you listening, that's the secret right now. My friend works for Chris Donnelly and he gave me that tip and they've been performing well for me. But the reason I brought up Atomic Habits is because James Clear has this one quote that I really like. It's like, we don't rise to the level of our goals, we fall to the
Yes.
something of our system.
We fall to our systems. It's something along those lines.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I love
I've
how
heard that.
you have this system for making space for creativity. I think that's so cool. And then in terms of how that's actually paid out for you, what are some of the posts that you've posted that you're like that you remember sticking out to you like, wow, this post kind of changed the game for me. This post kind of changed my life. And what was it about it that was good?
Yeah. I actually can't like so I can never pinpoint my LinkedIn success down to one single post because with
Mm,
LinkedIn is my personal brand is one big experiment. It really
right.
is. Like I even now with 14,000 followers, I can still never pinpoint what post is going to perform really well. What I will say is that posts where I've done like sort of three tips, I sort of give three tips to the audience, but I tie it in with a story. So I did one post the other day, literally this week, where I talked about job interview tips and specifically how to calm your nerves before a job interview. Now,
Mhm.
I could have easily just put that into a carousel like I do on Instagram, and I could have posted it that way. But I knew I had a story to tell in relation to those tips. And the story hook for that was that I've been rejected by companies for being too nervous during an interview. And I was like,
I remember this post.
it was literally, I think, on
Yeah.
Wednesday this week.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, that was I was like, that is the statement that's going to make this post perform really well. It might not go viral, but it's definitely going to catch the audience's attention. So that's what I did. I started out with that story, and then I gave the three tips that,
Mhm.
and the way I worded it was, so what would I tell Nia from 2 years ago
Right.
before she went into that interview? So I think the key for really good engagement on LinkedIn and to make your post do really well, you have to tell a story. Try and tie it into a personal experience if you can, because people relate to stories, they
Mm.
don't relate to tips.
Yeah.
Anyone can give tips. You can literally just do a Google search and it would come up. You can't Google a story.
Right.
So that is the key. If you want to supercharge your growth, you have to tell a story. And that post got 255 reactions, which for my level
Yeah,
of
that's
following
good.
is pretty good. It's pretty good. So yeah, tell a story.
That's awesome. Yeah, I found the same. Like telling a story because it's not saying like how you should do this, it's saying how I did it. And so no one
Yeah.
can refute that. And I think that's something that Alex Hermazi said is like
Yeah.
if you write about how you're like, oh, I am this weight and I have oatmeal every day. You're not saying that other people need to do that. You're just saying like, oh, I had oatmeal today and I weigh this. Like no one can refute you. No one can say that you're wrong because those are just facts.
Yeah.
So if you write about it from personal experience, it just gives you that leverage to be unbreakable in your credentials because you know how to live your own life.
Exactly. And I think there's a difference between telling people what they should do,
Mm,
and it's almost like because I'm saying how I did this, I'm not saying that it whatever. So that take the interview tips, for example. I'm not saying that those three things will definitely work for every single person. I'm just saying that this is what I did and this is what I would do differently.
mhm.
And I think that is really key as well when you're telling a story. You can't force people to do what you tell them. That's the thing. There's a difference between telling people what they should do and forcing them to do as you say. Like
Right.
I think people do struggle with finding that balance on LinkedIn. I've read a lot of posts from people in the past where it feels like they are forcing something down my throat. Like,
Right.
"Oh, do this or you won't be successful. Do this or you're never going to make six figures." Like, where is where is the empathy? Where is the connection to the audience? So when you're telling your stories, like that is one thing I would bear in mind is what is the tone of voice that you want to convey, and tell the audience what they should do, not what they can and can't do.
Yeah, I love that because as well, that comes into the realm of it's not even about what you say, it's about how you make people feel, right?
Yeah.
I, I was reading, yeah, I was reading something that said that a mark of a toxic person is someone who is religious but not spiritual, right?
Yeah.
And that just takes into the sentiment. And I do work for Dan Ariely as well, who's doing a lot of stuff around bureaucracy.
Yeah.
And he talks about the language of the law versus the law itself and the meaning. It's so easy to get lost in the words and prescriptions and all of this and lose that place in the middle, that balance, that kind of peace in the middle. And I think stories are a really great way to bridge that.
100%. And like we said, you can't replicate you. You can't replicate your experience.
Mm.
So share that with people, and you'll be surprised how many people are willing to listen. You really will. Yeah.
It's so cool. Yeah, we all do relate in that sort of way. So I guess when it comes to who you're writing for, do you find that you're able to engage with a lot of different people on LinkedIn, or is it mostly people who you feel you have a lot in common with?
I think so. I think in my case, because I am essentially my own target audience, I find it quite easy to engage with people on
Mhm.
LinkedIn. Now, that is not going to be the case for everyone, especially if you are someone that has clients and you manage social media accounts for other people. So, this is why really doing the work to understand who your target audience is really important. So, for the purposes of this podcast, I'm just going to talk about personal building your own personal brand. So, yeah. So, what I would do when it comes to your audience is you need to have your goal sorted out first before you can, because your target audience are the people who are going to help you achieve this goal. So, do you want a new job? Do you want to boost your employability? Do you want to expand your network? Do you want to attract clients if you run a business? Do you want public speaking opportunities? Your goal needs to be tangible. It needs to have an objective outcome, because then if you don't have an objective outcome, you're going to attract the wrong people into your audience. And if you attract the wrong people into your audience, you won't get to the goal that you want to achieve. So that's why I say knowing your goal and what you actually want to achieve out of LinkedIn is really important. So let's say, for example, you want a new job. So your target audience is most likely going to be hiring managers or senior team members from the industry that you want to work in or for the companies that you want to work for. So yeah, know your goal first before you set about going after your target audience and considering like who those people are and not just what they look like. We obviously
Mm.
demographics are important, like age, for example, or maybe gender in some cases, but it's really about their thoughts, their behaviors. What are their problems? Like, what do they struggle with? How can you be the solution to their problem? That is what is going to make them feel something, and that is what's going to make them want to buy from you or follow you.
Right. Like demographics definitely matter, but demographics matter because of what they tell you about behavior. So people
Yeah.
with old age matter because you know that they have higher buying power, more most likely because they've got more
Yeah.
wealth. Paying
Mm,
attention to psychographics is everything. And I think that just shows the depth of your experience as well, that you've picked up on that and that that's something that you do and that you weave
yeah.
into every strategy that you do, which is really cool.
Yeah. And I think it's also important to remember that your audience it will evolve as you grow. Your audience might change. Because your goals will change, because we change as individuals, and what you the where you were a year ago might not be where you are now. So it's natural for your audience to evolve. It's natural for you wanting to go after a different group of people.
Right.
So don't think that this is me telling you you have one audience and that is it for the rest of your life. No, it will change, but you have to do the work to understand who that new audience is before you can just make the switch. It doesn't just happen like that.
Yeah, I so agree. And I want to bring back this piece that you were talking about, like we were talking about like prescribing people things, and you're like, well, do you even do that? Something that came into my head, it was like, for a really long time, I'm someone who personally hates engagement, and I would kind of do it. I wouldn't do it right. And so I hired someone to do it because I know how important it is. So I want to talk a little bit about engagement, your thoughts about engagement for growth and your strategies for it.
Yeah. So engagement is crucial at the start of especially when you're starting out, especially when you're growing an audience from scratch. It really is essential because you can't expect people to engage with you if you're
Mhm.
not giving the same effort back. So when you're starting out, when you're trying to grow your audience, it really, really is crucial. But at the same time, it is time consuming. And especially if you work a full-time job alongside doing your content or building your personal brand, it can be hard in the day to set aside some time to do engagement. We don't all have half an hour at 8 o'clock in the morning to
Mhm.
work on our personal brands. Like, it's just not realistic.
Mhm.
So what I would say is, regardless of whether you run a business and you have that time freedom or whether you have a full-time job, this will work for you. You're going to pick 5 to 10 people, creators from LinkedIn or from Instagram, whatever social media platform you're on, 5 to 10 creators who, non-negotiable, you are going to engage with every single day. Whenever they post a new piece of content, you are going to comment on that, on that profile. What I would say here is, if 10 does sound like quite a lot, maybe start off with 5. And then if you're finding that you have more time, you can increase that to 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Mhm.
But having a set amount of people to engage with every single day will mean that A, you tick the box on your engagement, like, yep, I've done that. And B, compounded growth. The more you engage with people every single day, the wider audience that you'll reach, right? Because you're not just reaching people who are seeing your content, you're reaching people who are seeing the people you engage with. And then because you're commenting on that person's profile, other people will see your name. So I rambled a lot here, and it probably doesn't make any sense what I
Oh, it made
said.
sense. You're fine.
Yeah, just have that list of 5 to 10 people who, non-negotiable, you're going to comment on every single day, and you're set. You're set for life. Whether you have a full-time job, you can literally do it on the train. If you commute into work, you can do
Yeah.
it on the train, on the way in. You don't even have to do it in the morning. You can literally say, like, on your lunch break, for example. That's what I do.
Mhm.
I set some time aside on my lunch break to engage with people on LinkedIn. It doesn't always have to be first thing in the morning. Like, engagement is you can do it anytime, whenever works for you, but you do need to do it.
Yeah, I do like half of mine. And then, like I said, I hired someone to do the other half because you
Yeah.
don't have to do it right, but you have to do it somehow, you know?
Yeah.
It, it's just got to be done.
We
And
all we all find a way to make it work. Some people choose to outsource their engagement, others might not have that freedom. They might not have the money to pay someone to do it for them. So that's why I recommend, all in that trick of 5 to 10 people, just engage with them. And on LinkedIn especially, what you can do is turn on post notifications for someone's profile. So every time
Mhm.
someone posts a new piece of content, you'll get a notification to say that they've posted. And then all you have to do is just click on their post, comment on it, and you're done.
There you go.
So there you go. And like I say, it doesn't have to be at a set time during the day. Just do it whenever suits you, but it does need to be done.
I love that. And just closing off, if you had one piece of advice or one question that you would want people listening to really think about, just one, what would that be?
Oh, one question I think I would say is, what do you really want from personal branding? And it's not a new job. It's not public speaking. It's like, what is the what is the one change that you want to make through building your personal brand? The way I think of it is like this. If you had a magic wand for a day and it only had one spell, what would you cast?
Mm,
And what the answer to that will give you your mission, the whole why of why are you putting time into investing in your personal brand. You don't have to build your personal brand. You really don't. People can have successful careers without building their personal brand, and some people just might not see it as beneficial for them. This is completely and utterly optional. I think a lot of people forget that personal branding is optional. It is a personal choice, quite literally. But if you actually want to attract amazing opportunities for your career, you have to put yourself out there. And putting yourself out there starts with your personal brand. So it's optional, but don't underestimate what personal branding can do for you.
I love that. Thank you so much, Nia. This has been really valuable.
Well, thank you. I hope you guys have enjoyed listening, and I appreciate that I ramble a lot. So I hope that whatever I've said in this episode makes some sense.
You honestly don't ramble. You're pretty succinct. But yeah, I'm gonna put your what is it? Your description in the description. What is it called? Your handles in the description. So
Well, yeah, all my socials will be in the show notes, guys. So do check them out, and thank you so much for listening. Sorry, I just ended your podcast episode.
We both know what we want. Let's just keep it simple.